Colorado Governor Jared Polis is calling for the handling of classified materials to be reformed.
Yeah, his comments come amid separate document controversies that have been linked to multiple top U.S. officials. Materials marked classified have been found in the homes of former President Donald Trump, former Vice President Mike Pence. That's happened over the last year. They've also been found both in the residence and former office of the current President, Joe Biden.
In an interview for the Takeout with Major Garrett, Polis said he believes they all could have avoided the Justice Department's scrutiny by adhering to congressional protocols.
You could argue there's certainly blame on both sides, but I would say we need protocols, and the protocols for members of Congress reviewing classified information fundamentally work, to the best of my knowledge. And why are people in the executive branch apparently able to walk out to non-secure places with classified information? They simply shouldn't be able to do that.
So joining us now is the host of The Takeout, Major Garrett. He's also CBS News' Chief Washington correspondent. So, Major, this is a fascinating discussion. I think most people will look and say to themselves, the rules should apply equally to the commander-in-chief on down to whoever has access to these classified documents. But where does a Democratic governor like Polis and his support for President Biden stand in the wake of this document's controversy?
So, Vlad, I'll get to that in a second. One thing I wanted the audience to know is we recorded this yesterday afternoon, and I was curious if Governor Polis had been briefed about the situation in Memphis. Was he doing anything statewide in Colorado to prepare? The answer to both questions, yes. He had already been briefed on the situation about Tyree Nichols and had communicated to statewide and local police in Colorado to be ready in case anything happened in terms of protests or anything that got out of control. And I said, do you intend to watch the video? He said, I do. I said, are you bracing for it? He said, like every American, I'm bracing for it. So even yesterday in Denver, inside the capital of Colorado, this issue was already of pressing concern for the governor. As for Joe Biden, I said, do you expect him to run? He said, I expect him to run. I said, are you enthusiastic? He said, sort of. I mean, that's not a direct quote, but I would say he was nominally enthusiastic about a Biden run for re-election. I said, if he doesn't run, are the Democrats bereft of possible candidates? He said, no, we've got plenty of people. I said, are you among them? Because I've been told by several Democrats, hey, keep your eye on Jared Polis. He said, I have no interest, not going to do it. It's not going to be me. But he felt pretty good about not only the Joe Biden record, but his prospects for re-election. And in the question of documents, this is the perspective of now a governor, but he was in the House for 10 years. And I think what you're seeing is members of Congress, they have very strict protocols. And they're sort of running out of patience with executive branch types who don't have the accountability and don't appear in every respect to be following the protocols. And these members of Congress are like, hey, I had to really adhere to very, very strict rules. The executive branch ought to as well.
Major, you also spoke to the governor about his feelings about former President Trump's third run for the presidency. Very curious about this. What did he have to say?
Let's just say Governor Polis, speaking, I think, for many Democrats, he intimated that he is very much looking forward to a general election contest with either Joe Biden or an unnamed Democrat against the former president. Let's take a listen.
As a Democrat, we obviously salivate at the prospect of being able to defeat President Trump again. But as an American, I'd like to see a healthier body politic and would love to see somebody who believes in our Constitution, our system of governance, and believes in the integrity of elections on both sides of the aisle.
And I said, are you saying any Democrat can beat former President Trump? He said, well, not any Democrat, but any of the ones who are likely to run, either President Biden or a competitive, aggressive Democrat yet to be named or identified. He said the Democratic Party very well positioned to defeat former President Trump.
All right. Governor Polis also weighed in on Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' controversial decision to block schools in his state from offering AP African American Studies. And, as people know, these AP classes are electives. They are not classes that are required by some of these students to take. If you're interested in it, you can take it. Let's play a little bit of what he told you.
It's not a governor's job to micromanage the curriculum of what schools in their state are offering. And we have 178 school districts. They have locally elected school boards. And as long as the kids are meeting our academic standards and we measure that, their achievement in reading and writing and math, the last thing a governor should be doing is micromanaging the curriculum.
Is there some grandstanding going on here?
It sounds like it. I don't know, how a governor like Ron DeSantis can run a big state like Florida and still find time to review the AP curricula for a course that hardly any students are going to take. That's certainly not something I do in the course of my day.
So, Major, let me ask you really quickly before you jump in here. It does seem kind of striking to me that a Republican elected official would be applying, because Republicans have historically been about less government and meddling in something that is kind of as local as it can be, which is school choices. Meg, you cover education. I mean, to me, that strikes me as really the nanny state here.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that struck me about Governor Polis's answer. And, he has an interesting reputation among Democrats. He's a very pro-business Democrat, kind of on the libertarian side on some issues. And that perspective is one you're beginning to hear from some critics of Governor DeSantis in Florida, that he's not really a small government Republican. He's a Ron DeSantis, this is my point of view, and I want to enforce it kind of governor. And for some Republicans, and clearly from the point of view of Jared Polis, that's not what government's about. That's basically imposing your desires or your will upon the state that you govern. Yes, you have the consent of those who elected you, but are you taking it too far? And that was one strand of Governor Polis's observation. I also asked him, I said, do you think there's anything particularly threatening in a general sense to the LGBTQ community for Governor DeSantis to talk in very specific terms about there's this queer approach to black history and he's opposed to that? And Governor Polis said, well, in a general way, I am worried about that. And look, Colorado's still reeling from the Club Q massacre in 2022, in which that was one of the underlying motives, hostility toward LGBTQ communities. So that part of the conversation did not escape Governor Polis either.
All right, a lot to look forward to in this week's version of The Takeout. Major Garrett, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can stream the rest of Major's interview with Governor Polis on this Sunday's edition of The Takeout. It streams on CBS News and Paramount Plus at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can also listen to the interview now on the Takeout podcast.